Okay, everybody, welcome to the back to the channel. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm so excited. I just found one of my new favorite mystery writers of all time. Just with this one book, this dude won me over, and I am going to get everything else he ever writes. This book is The Far Empty by J. Todd Scott. Oh my gosh, just the title itself is gorgeous. I love titles that just have sort of a poetic feel to them. And The Far Empty says everything we need to know about this book. It is a Western, it's a modern Western mystery novel set down in Texas in our own time, but it reads and it feels just so much like an old-timey Western. And the cover, you know I love graphic design and cover illustration. And this just is a great, great book cover. I love the font that they've used for both the name of the author and the title of the book. I love the image that they use, the cowboy sheriff with the rifle. Reminds me a lot of Longmire and Joe Pickett. You know, I love the Longmire series and the Joe Pickett series by C.J. Box. And then now we've got this guy, J. Todd Scott, writing a great mystery in Texas, in southern Texas, in the harsh climates of southern Texas. So great. This book opens up with a bang. Now, I will be honest with you. In the first paragraph of the first page, there are three very harsh, unpolitically correct words used that will shock you. But it sets up one of the most evil characters that we have ever had in mystery fiction. One of the most diabolical guys. One of those evil characters that comes across as a good guy to everybody on the planet. But the few people that really know him know he's a scumbag. And just the way that J. Todd Scott sets up this character in the prologue, I mean, that's the way you do it. I mean, it starts out in Murphy, Texas, which I Googled. It doesn't exist. Murphy, Texas is a fictional town. However, it's set down there, down by Big Bend National Park, which, by the way, I did Google, and they say that Big Bend National Park is one of the 10 most beautiful in the country. Never been there, can't say that. I'm just going by what Wikipedia told me. Anyway, J. Todd Scott himself is an ex-federal agent who worked these drug cases along the Mexican border in Texas. So he's got 20 years of experience dealing with law enforcement. So we know from the get-go that the author, we are in good hands with the author because he's a retired police. Murphy, Texas is this fictional town that's just corrupt with drug lords, drug couriers, corruption in the sheriff's department, and other law enforcement agencies, and the corruption that just goes along with the war on drugs down on that border, in those border towns. This is what we're dealing with. It's a godforsaken place. These places are bleak and grim and hot and dirty. And there's a saying that Big Bend National Park is a godforsaken place where there is more blood on the ground than water. And if you read this book, oh my gosh, this book just takes you on such an adventure, such a harrowing, horrific journey through the streets of these small towns that are dealing with these these Mexican cartel gangsters coming in and out and just messing with things. And it's just the prologue itself. Like I said, it's a sensationally grim, thrilling prologue that sets up Sheriff Judge Sanford and his son Caleb as characters themselves, where Caleb just wants to have a normal father, but his dad is the sheriff whose nickname is the Judge. His name is Sanford Ross. Caleb Ross and Sanford Ross. Sanford Ross is known as the Judge, but he's actually the sheriff of this town, and he is corrupt as all get out. Everybody loves him, though. But his son knows that his dad is a bad guy. And the bleak but beautiful descriptions that follow, and the chapters that follow, the bleak and beautiful descriptions of the southwestern Texas landscape and Big Bend National Park, and the dead bodies that they find, and the harrowing situations that each character finds themselves into, is done so well. This guy writes so well. His writing is almost poetic. It's just a level above. So, our main character actually is not Caleb, the boy. He's in the prologue, and he is throughout the book. The sheriff is our main bad guy, though most people in the book thinks he's an angel. Our main protagonist is actually a character named Chris Cherry. He's a deputy underneath the sheriff. He's actually an ex-college quarterback, and he's just a very good guy. He grew up in Murphy, Texas. He went to play college quarterback at one of the big Texas schools, and now he's come back to be a sheriff in Murphy. There's also Deputy Dwayne Dupree, who is not a good deputy. He is a scumbag. He is actually a pervert. He is actually someone you just do not want around. And he acts as the evil sheriff's sort of henchman, sort of go do bad thing guy. Then we've got Melissa Cherry, who is Chris Cherry's wife. The good deputy has a wife. Well, actually, has his girlfriend. But she's really unsatisfied with the relationship because she married Chris when he was a college quarterback. So she thought her life would be one of, Chris is going to be an NFL star. We're going to have lots of money. And instead, he gets injured and he ends up in the police department in a small town. And she's just like, this is not the life I signed up for when I hooked my wagon to this dude's star. Because he didn't make the NFL. He's just a sheriff making $30,000 a year. Or he's just a deputy making $30,000. So we've got that dynamic going. We've got Caleb and his father, that dynamic going, with the good kid who knows his sheriff. His dad's the sheriff, but his dad is evil. And then we've got the evil deputy too. And then we put on top of that, we've got Anna Hart, who is a young new school teacher in Caleb's high school. And also in Caleb's high school is a young Spanish girl named America. And there's also another dude named Maximo, who's one of my favorite characters. Maximo. Anyway, all of these characters combined create just a story where just the amount of creepiness that oozes out of the sheriff in those moments where everybody thinks the sheriff is just this dynamic, great guy. But the reader and his son know. And Chris Cherry, the deputy, is starting to suspect. And even this high school teacher, Anna, starts to suspect. There's something just devious about, there's something not right about this sheriff. Everybody else loves him. He's a do-gooder. He cannot do wrong. And that's what makes him so evil. Because he knows that he can manipulate people. And pile on top of all of this, the Mexican cartel, the assassinations. I mean, just imagine everything you saw that happened in Breaking Bad, dialed up even worse in this book. It's just an absolutely beautifully written, superb prose, magnificent dialogue, the tension, and the seeing the story from all the different perspectives of all the different characters, because we do jump perspectives between all these characters, and just the perverted nature of these bad cops, Deputy Dwayne Dupree and his perversions, and then Sheriff, Ross and his perversions. I mean, it's just like you just creeped out. It's almost like watching something akin to a horror movie play out in front of you. And it's a murder mystery. It's a simple murder mystery. And the histories behind all these characters also come into play. And J. Todd Scott has weaved such a great story here. And I'm surprised that this just nobody knows about these. I barely found out about them the other day when I saw it in the bookstore. And I read this and I immediately ordered the next 3 books that J. Todd Scott has written. This is a trilogy. This is book 1 of a trilogy. And then he's written another standalone about the drug cartels in Virginia, I think. Sort of like a justified version of... Anyway. It's a fucking 10 out of 10. This book blew me away. Blew me away. From the title to the cover to the story inside. I absolutely dug it. I dug everything about it. Just one of my favorite reads so far of this year. Absolutely great. 10 out of 10.